The Knights of St. John, the last Crusaders who defied an empire.
Imagine an elite brotherhood of warrior monks, battle-hardened, unwavering in faith, and feared by the most powerful empires in history. They wielded swords and shields not for wealth or power, but for a divine cause. These were the Knights of St. John, an order that stood as Christendom's shield against the relentless expansion of Islam. But were they truly defenders of the faith? Or ruthless zealots waging a holy war? They defied the Ottoman Empire, built fortresses that seemed impregnable, and became a naval force so fearsome that even the Sultan of Constantinople himself called them a menace. Yet despite their triumphs, their story is one of exile, bloodshed, and betrayal. What happened to these warrior monks? And why do some believe they were far more than just knights? Stay with us as we uncover the untold history of the Knights of St. John, the defenders of the Christian faith. Hi friends, welcome to our channel where we dive deep into history's greatest mysteries, unsolved legends, and epic battles. If you love history told in an engaging and thought-provoking way, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Now let's get into it. The origins of the Knights of St. John. To understand the Knights of St. John, also known as the Hospitallers, we need to go back to the 11th century. Originally, they weren't warriors at all. They were a monastic order founded in Jerusalem, dedicated to caring for sick and wounded Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. Their hospitals became sanctuaries, offering medical aid, food, and protection to travelers navigating the dangerous roads of the Levant. But then everything changed. In 1099, during the First Crusade, Jerusalem fell into Christian hands. With a new Christian kingdom established in the Holy Land, the Hospitallers evolved. They were no longer just healers, they became warriors. The order adopted a military role, defending Christian strongholds, escorting pilgrims, and battling Muslim forces who sought to reclaim their lands. By the 12th century, the Knights of St. John had transformed into a formidable military order, clad in black robes emblazoned with the white eight-pointed Maltese cross, a symbol that still endures today. They built fortified castles, mastered the art of siege warfare, and carved a reputation as one of the most elite fighting forces in medieval Europe. But their greatest battles were yet to come. The war against Islam. A never-ending struggle. For the Knights of St. John, war against Islam wasn't just a political struggle. It was a divine duty. From the moment they took up arms in the 12th century, they saw themselves as the defenders of Christendom, standing against the tide of Islamic expansion. But their enemy was no ordinary foe. They faced the might of some of the greatest empires in history, the Ayyubids, the Mamluks, and eventually the Ottoman Empire, each more powerful than the last. The fall of the Crusader states, and the search for a new home. In 1187, the great Muslim general Saladin shattered Christian hopes of a lasting kingdom in the Holy Land. His decisive victory at the Battle of Hattin led to the recapture of Jerusalem, and the Crusader states began to crumble. The Knights of St. John, along with the Templars and Teutonic Order, were forced into retreat. They held out in the city of Acre, but in 1291, the Mamluks, an elite warrior dynasty from Egypt, besieged the city. After weeks of relentless bombardment, the Christian forces were overwhelmed. The fall of Acre marked the end of the Crusader era in the Holy Land, and the Knights of St. John were now without a home. But they weren't ready to give up. Fleeing to the island of Cyprus, the knights regrouped, rebuilt their ranks, and plotted their next move. If they could no longer defend the Holy Land itself, they would control the seas, ensuring that Muslim forces could never expand unchecked into Europe. The last stand on Rhodes, defying the Ottoman Empire. In 1309, the knights seized the island of Rhodes, strategically located in the eastern Mediterranean. Here, they built one of the most formidable naval bases of the medieval world, transforming their order into a naval superpower. For over 200 years, they waged a relentless war against Muslim fleets, attacking Ottoman and Mamluk ships, raiding coastal towns, and disrupting Islamic trade routes. They were Christianity's privateers, striking fear into Muslim merchants and rulers alike. But this defiance came at a price. The Ottoman Empire, which had conquered Constantinople in 1453, was expanding at an alarming rate. The Sultan saw the knights as an existential threat, pirates who needed to be eliminated. In 1522, the Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent decided to end their rule once and for all. He launched a massive invasion, sending an armada of 400 ships and an army of 200,000 men to crush the 7,000 defenders on Rhodes. The siege was one of the most brutal in medieval history. The knights, vastly outnumbered, held their ground for 6 months, repelling wave after wave of Ottoman assaults. But in the end, their walls crumbled under relentless cannon fire, and the exhausted defenders had no choice but to surrender. Yet, in a surprising twist, Suleiman admired their bravery. Instead of executing them, he allowed them to leave Rhodes with dignity, giving them safe passage to Europe. Once again, the knights were without a home, but they would return stronger than ever. The birth of the Maltese Knights, the greatest victory against the Ottomans. Homeless but undefeated, the Knights of St. John spent 7 years wandering Europe, searching for a new base of operations. Many rulers refused to host them, either out of fear of Ottoman retaliation or because they saw no strategic value in supporting them. But then, in 1530, they found an unlikely benefactor, Emperor Charles V of Spain. Seeing an opportunity to create a Christian stronghold in the Mediterranean, he granted the knights a new home, the small, rocky island of Malta. At first, the knights were unimpressed. Malta was barren, its defenses weak, and it lacked the grandeur of Rhodes. But they had no choice. They began fortifying the island, turning it into an impregnable fortress. The Ottomans, however, were not about to let them regroup. The Great Siege of Malta, 1565. The battle that changed history. In 1565, the Ottoman Empire launched its most ambitious invasion of Europe yet. The goal? Crush the knights, capture Malta, and use it as a stepping stone to invade Italy and Spain. Suleiman sent an army of 40,000 men and a fleet of 200 ships, expecting an easy victory. The knights had only 700 of their own warriors, supported by 6,000 Maltese soldiers and European mercenaries. What followed was one of the bloodiest sieges in history. The Ottomans bombarded the knights' fortresses day and night, but the defenders refused to break. Fort St. Elmo, one of the knights' key strongholds, was completely destroyed, and every single knight inside was killed. But not before they held out for over a month, buying time for reinforcements. The turning point came when a relief force from Sicily arrived, catching the Ottomans off guard. After months of relentless fighting, the exhausted Ottomans finally retreated, suffering over 25,000 casualties. The Great Siege of Malta was a turning point in European history. It marked the beginning of the Ottoman decline in the Mediterranean, proving that the seemingly unstoppable empire could be defeated. The Knights of St. John had saved Europe from invasion, and in doing so, secured their place in history as one of the greatest warrior orders of all time. The fall and legacy of the Knights. For over 200 years, the Knights ruled Malta as a sovereign military power. They built massive fortresses, commanded a powerful navy, and continued their war against the Ottomans and the Barbary pirates. But as time passed, their power began to fade. By the 18th century, Europe was changing. The age of crusading knights was over. The Ottoman threat was weakening, and the idea of religious military orders felt outdated in the age of Enlightenment and Revolution. Then came Napoleon Bonaparte. In 1798, during his campaign to invade Egypt, Napoleon stopped in Malta. He requested supplies from the knights, but when Grand Master Ferdinand von Hompesch hesitated, Napoleon invaded the island. The knights, once the most fearsome warriors of Christendom, surrendered without a fight. It was a humiliating end for an order that had once stood against entire empires. After losing Malta, the knights never regained their military power. They scattered across Europe, their influence dwindling. However, they did not disappear. Today, the Knights of St. John still exist, but not as warriors. Now known as the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, they are a humanitarian organization, running hospitals, aiding refugees, and continuing their ancient mission of care and healing. But their legacy remains controversial. Were they heroes, bravely defending Europe from Islamic conquest? Or were they zealots, perpetuating centuries of religious warfare? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the Knights of St. John, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more history content. See you in the next video.